Hi, and welcome to my channel where I love to do all types of DIYs, everything from home updating projects to budget-friendly DIY home decor. If these are things you're interested in, then I hope you will consider hitting that subscribe button and become part of my DIY family. Okay, to start out with, I am going to take some of this copper spray paint from Rust-Oleum, and I am going to spray that entire pot, including along the inside. I've got a few different colors here. I do have a Deco Arts Copper Metallic. I've got Folk Art Matte in the color Turquoise Mystique, and then I've got Apple Barrels Cloudless. And then I've got some sponges here that I just cut up, some all natural sponges. And then I've also got this little sponge brush. Starting out with the turquoise. Okay, and I'm just going to dab that turquoise color on just wherever I feel I want the most distressing, the most of that patina appearance. And I'm just dabbing it. I'll go darker in some spots and lighter in others. I also want to make sure I do that inside upper lip because I know you're going to be able to see that when I've got a plant in there. And just going around that whole entire lip. And then I'm also going to take my little sponge brush and I'm going to use the tip of that and I'm just going to kind of dab it into all those indentations. And just really, get in there because I know distressing, that's where you're going to see a lot of that distressing. And when I dab that in there with that sponge brush, I'll go back over it with the sponge itself and then just kind of help smooth out all those lines, just kind of giving it more of a natural look. And I just do that all throughout, and I do as much as I like, whatever I feel looks good. So just use your imagination. And I'm not going to show you the whole process of each step, otherwise this video would be hours long. So just kind of see what I'm doing here and then just know that that's what I'm doing throughout. Okay, now once I've got some of that blue on there, I'm going to come in with that Cloudless from Apple Barrel, and I'm going to kind of put that randomly in some spots. I did find that the closer you dab it, each little dab, the better it looked to me. But of course, if I felt I put too much on, I can always go back over it with that blue color. I've also got the copper that I'm going to be using, and if I've got too much blue on there, I can go back over that blue with the copper. So just play around with it and have fun. And then here's where I start using some of that copper color, just dabbing it on places where I feel I've just got too much of the other colors. All right, that is finished. I'm going to spray it with a clear coat just to seal it in. And here's the final look, and here's how I decided to style it. So let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about this? I think it looks beautiful. This is probably my favorite project today. All right, this little tray I want to turn into a Lazy Susan. I thought it would be perfect to put like my bottles of vinegar and stuff on it inside the cabinet. So I just want to dress it up a little bit. Give it a little bit of a farmhouse touch, if you will. So for the white paint, I am just going to use Linen White from Rust-Oleum. And I'm going to just kind of go around the edges to trim it out. And you can always tape this off. All right, this is the image. I printed the cow off of Creative Fabrica, and then on Canva, I just kind of designed what I wanted my tray to say and look like. So if I can figure out how to link a design I created in Canva, then I will put that in the description box. If not, then otherwise it's really simple to make. Just download the cow image, which I'll link in the description box from Creative Fabrica, and then just type out whatever you'd like it to say. But again, I will try to see, because I don't pay for Canva just yet. I may eventually start, but at this point in time, I don't have the extra funds, so I don't pay for that subscription just yet. But I just printed this out on regular tissue paper on my regular printer. I don't use a laser printer. I don't have one. With that being said, it's going to be important before we start brushing a protector over this image that we protect that ink, and we will get to that here shortly. But I'm just going to cut my image right now just off of this tissue paper so I can lay it down and figure out my placement. Okay, so I'm just going to take my water pen and I'm just going to go around the places that I want to tear away. Tearing it away versus just cutting it straight with scissors helps it blend into that white paint and make it look more flawless. And I have to tell you, this water pen has been a time saver. It's absolutely wonderful, and I'll link that in the description box as well. Okay, so I'm just going to take some matte Mod Podge and I'm just going to apply a layer to this surface. And then most of the times I just take my heat gun and I will dry the surface just to save some time. There are a few times I don't use this heat gun, and those times are usually just when I want the absolute smoothest coat I can get out of that chalk paint. And then I'm just going to grab some parchment paper and place that over the image. Then I'm just going to take my iron and I'm just going to go over that entire image, and I try to work from the center and work my way out. That way I just make sure I get any air bubbles out, just out of habit mainly. And if you struggle to pull that parchment paper off, just wait till it completely cools and that'll make it easier. Now before I seal this with another layer of Mod Podge, or in this case what I'm going to use is this Art decoupage. I like it because it has a sealer in it and it goes on very smoothly, so I do like that for a top coat. But before I do that, because I don't want this ink to smear, I'm going to go ahead and spray it with this matte clear enamel. I'm going to put about 2 coats on it, letting it dry in between. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put my final layer of decoupage, and I'm going to put that all over the bottom. That way I make sure I protect the paint and the image. I'm going to let that dry, and I am going to put another thin coat on top of that just for a little extra finish, because I am going to be having bottles on here that could spill over and drip. Okay, so this is drying down, and I'm just going to flip it on over. And I got this Lazy Susan kit. I want to say it came like 4, maybe 6 in a box. I don't remember. I'll look through my Amazon history and I will link that in the description box in case you're interested. But I know they weren't very expensive and you get quite a few of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm just, instead of screwing this in, because I'm afraid it's going to go all the way through, I'm just going to use some Star Bond type super glue. I guess it's a type of super glue. It's a multi-purpose, high-performance, instant adhesive. I don't have a little spray thing to make it instant, but anywho, I know this stuff works pretty well. I'm going to get some more, but I'm going to get it in the thick because I think that will benefit me a little better. But I'm going to go ahead and clean up this surface before I glue it. And I'm just going to use a little bit of alcohol just to make sure I got any fingerprints off of it. That will prevent it from sticking. And I'm just going to wipe it down with a lint-free wipe. And I just use coffee filters. Okay, I'm going to let that dry down. And then on my tray, I'm going to find center. All right, this should be dry. Yeah, that didn't go nowhere. And this project is done. So I really just liked the wood look, the natural wood look. So I wanted to keep that. But what do you guys think? I think it turned out really well. It's going to do perfect for Lazy Susan. Okay, so I found this tissue box and I just loved this design on it. And it looks like somebody actually already painted it one time. Okay, I'm just going to start out by painting the entire tissue box with Dixie Belle's Fluff color. And I love this color. It's such a creamy white, and I'm almost finished with it. I actually bought this paint to do my hutch makeover, and I've just been using it since, and it's almost completely gone, but I have to think about buying it or trying a different brand of paint. Right now I'm contemplating trying some other brands of paint, just kind of branching out, if you will. Let me know in the comments below, what is your all's favorite kind of paint to use? And after I got done painting it, there were just a little bit of spots that were just a little rough. So I just took a fine grit sandpaper and just went over that surface, just to make that paint just a little bit smoother. And then I just took some mineral chalk paint from Waverly and this sponge brush, and I just dipped the tip of that sponge brush in that paint, and just lightly I'm going to go over those raised areas just to bring out that beautiful image on this tissue box. I think that came out so pretty. I do need to seal it, and I am going to seal it with some polyacrylic. Okay, so I've got plaster from Waverly, and I am going to cover the entire tray, front, back, sides, everything, with a coat of this paint. Actually, I ended up, I believe, using 2 coats. And I've got some of these 1.5 inch ball knobs that I had picked up from Hobby Lobby. And then I'm just going to take some of my Sure Bonder super glue, and I'm going to attach those as feet. And I'm going to leave them in their natural state. I think that may be a pretty contrast in the end, so we'll see. All right, got the feet on, and the next thing I want to do is I'm going to find center on the long sides of this tray.
And then I'm just going to take some painter's tape and I'm just going to put that down and tape off where I don't want the paint. And I'm just going to put some little lines. And unfortunately, in the end, this part ended up getting covered for the most part. There might be just a tad bit of the paint color poking through, but I thought I'd leave it in here because I really liked the initial stage of it before I decided to go crazy and fix what I thought didn't look right. Okay, so if you see that flower there, I want to make a color that's as close to that as I can get. And I'm going to do that by taking some white chalk paint and some Waverly chalk paint in the color Agave. And I'm just going to mix a little bit of white in that Agave just to lighten it up a little bit. And that's what I'm going to use to paint those lines on the side of the tray. And then I'm just going to take a stencil brush and I'm going to dab that color on that tray in those lines. And I just want to make sure it pounce up and down because I don't want it to bleed under the tape. And then we're just going to pull that tape on off of there. And I always do this before it has a chance to dry completely. I found that if I wait until it dries, then my tape just ends up peeling the paint with it and just creates a whole other issue. And now I just want a thicker line down that center in between those two small lines. So I'm just going to take some more painter's tape and I'm just going to tape off an area where I'm going to have a thicker line. And then I'm just going to repeat the process of putting on some more paint. And I do want to clarify that before I put that second piece of tape down for the thicker line, I did dry down the initial painted lines. And then next I just want to paint that same color on the inside part of those handles, which end up getting mainly covered up in the end. But hey, the initial part, it looked really pretty. And now I'm just going to take that plaster color paint and just clean up around the edges where that blue had gotten onto the plaster. Now it's time to decoupage, and I'm just going to take some matte Mod Podge and I'm just going to apply a layer on the bottom there, and then I'm going to dry it down with my heat gun. And I'm going to put a second layer of Mod Podge because it's such a big area and I didn't want to take a chance that I missed a spot. And then I'll dry that second layer down again.
Okay, so this is one image that uploaded from Creative Fabrica and I put it into Canva. And I wanted it onto 8 by 11.5 because my tray, 11.5 by, or 11 by 14, that was going to work. So I just kind of played around with the images. Only thing is, I was supposed to shrink this one because now they overlap. So that's something I will have to work with. I'm going to cut the tissue paper off of the paper I used to print it out.
And now I'm just playing around with these images, trying to get those two edges lined up the best that I can. I did end up overlapping them, which I really wish I hadn't done that. I just wish I would have cut them back or trimmed them back enough to where they would lay side by side, because that is what ended up giving me a headache here in just a minute. And then I just take my water pen and go around the edges of the paper. And then once I got those edges trimmed, I just placed it back in the tray, and I just kind of played around with the center part, trying to get it to match up the best I can. So I did have to trim a little bit off that as well.
Okay, so I've got my little mini heat press here. If you have a bigger iron, by all means use that. Just don't use the steam setting on the iron. And I'm just going to reactivate that Mod Podge that we put down.
Now, looking down the center, it looked like it had some little brown lines going through it, like little rust lines. So I thought, well, I'll take my water pen and I'll try to replicate that the best that I can. And that actually did work. It brought out some little lines that looked a little rusted. And now I'm just going to take some of that matte clear enamel and spray 2 coats on top of this paper. That way it doesn't bleed during our Mod Podge process. Now I'm going to take some antiquing wax. I just felt like that center where it overlapped was just throwing me off. And I just, around the long edges also where the paper didn't meet, it was just too stark white in my opinion. So I just decided to go over it with that antiquing wax, trying to distress it up a little bit, making it look a little aged, like the paint was starting to, chip away from this tray. I don't know. It was a process. And now that I'm looking at it, it could have also been the color of that paper. I think if it would have been more of a white and it blended into that white tray, I probably would have left it alone. I think that would have looked really pretty. But between the color of the paper, that line going down the middle, those long edges of the paper not meeting to the edge of the tray, I just felt like I had to make it blend more. So that's what I attempted to do. And then once I finished distressing the bottom part of the tray, I thought, well, that doesn't look right. So then I decided I have to distress the entire tray. So that's what I did. I went over that entire tray with some antiquing wax. I'd use a brush to apply it, and I'd wipe it off with a towel and back and forth. And then once that was done, I decided, okay, I just got to go over the entire bottom, covering the paper with that antiquing wax, and then wiping it back down just to make it a little browner as well. And then once I got finished distressing it all over, I decided no, that just brought out that center too much. So I decided I was going to take some more of that plaster color chalk paint, and I'm going to go over the entire thing. I went over the outer edges, along the sides. I even went on the bottom. I don't know that I recorded me going on the bottom, but what I ended up doing was brushing on some of that plaster paint and then wiping it off with a towel, and that really lightened it up in the end. And even though once I was finished with this, I still wasn't sure if I liked it. So I left it alone, and the next day I decided to show my husband what I had made the day before. what gave me all my headaches. And I went up and looked at it, and I thought, you know what, I actually kind of like this. So I guess as it sat overnight, my brain cleared up. I ended up really liking it. I think adding that white paint on the top and just dulling out all of the harsh darkness that was going on the top, I think that really helped. But you guys are going to have to let me know in the comments down below, how do you think this tray turned out in the end? What would you have done differently? Just let me know. Okay, so I know this video is getting long, so I'm going to try to hurry this last project up. I decided to go ahead and start painting this with a aged gray color by Rust-Oleum, and I just put that all over. Okay, so I was not liking the light gray color. I just felt like maybe it had a little bit of a purple undertone that I wasn't really liking. I'm not sure what it was, but I decided to go ahead and use Elephant Gray from Waverly Chalk Paint and cover that up, and I did 1.5 coats for full coverage. And just a quick story on this candlestick I picked up. I got it from Goodwill, and when I brought it home and I was cleaning it off, I realized this was not originally a candlestick. Somebody had actually turned this into a candlestick, but it was originally a lamp. You could see on the bottom where they had pulled the cords out, and you could see down the top that it went, you know, where the cords had gone. So I thought that was I thought that was pretty cool when I realized that it used to be a lamp. Somebody updated it, donated it, and now it's getting another update. All right, so once I got the gray coverage, I went ahead and I took some clear wax and some white chalk paint, and I mixed those together so I can create a white wax since I didn't have any on hand. And that's what I'm going to use to distress this piece. And when I distress it, I am going to brush on that clear wax, and I'm just going to do it in sections because this stuff is going to dry pretty quick. And then I'm just going to take a paper towel and I am going to wipe back as much of that paint or wax as I can. And I did end up using a paper towel and dipping it in that wax and just kind of going down in those creases. I just felt like that gave me a little bit more control over where I had that wax going. And then I just alternated between those two techniques all the way throughout the candlestick. And I want to thank you guys for watching, and if you made it this far, leave me a little heart emoji, and I will see you on the next video, and here is the finale.